Welcome back and now tuned into the other side of sports. It's your host, Laws in the building. It's me and Aaron in the building rocking out. You already know why we here. Off schedule, because we got to talk about it. Eric Bieniemy named offensive coordinator for the Washington Command. Might I say assistant head coach? Can I say that, Aaron?
That's
Is
what's
that
on the paperwork.
is that's his title? Uh, I mean this joint it's bittersweet, because here we have a guy who, by all accounts, shouldn't be having to make lateral moves, and I don't care how the media is going to try to spin it. Right? They're going to tell you, oh well, he's assistant head coach, and he's getting more on his plate, and this, and that, and they didn't give him that. That's something he had to ask for, and that's something he has to fight for. And that, to me, that scraps in comparison to some other head coaches out here with a different protection for the complexion that don't even have to even be remotely close to the accolades that he has attached to his name, and be given opportunities to not only be, offensive coordinators, but head coaches. And I mean, if we're just going to keep it all the way 100, right? I think this is a way the league is trying to maintain uh, a certain color on that job. And the way that they're doing it is by making black head coaches or black assistants who are successful have to jump through a million hoops in order to get to spaces where they're head coaches. And that is to be used as a deterrent for black coaches to want to be offensive coordinators and to try to get into that space because they want to keep it predominantly white. Aaron, do you agree?
Yeah, I think I'm the one that originated that theory back in 2012 with the quarterbacks. This is one of the conversations we were having. When the way that Kyle created that offense for RG3, and you saw the way they started winning, we saw Colin Kaepernick all of a sudden that offense change over there. We saw what they did with Russell Wilson all of a sudden change. And there was this new landscape where prior to that, it was almost treated like
The
some
read
kind of
option became
outlier,
became a thing in the league that
right?
wasn't
Like a
there.
norm. It was no longer called playing a college offense. Now it's just
What
running offense.
what's his name that was coaching the Eagles that got a head coaching job just because of that? What's his name? That he was there for a short stint. I can't
This
think
year,
of
or
it.
you mean
No,
before?
no, no, no. This is like maybe like 5, 6 years ago. This is before
Chip Kelly?
they Chip Kelly. They hired that Bama just because of that.
Right. And it all started here in Washington with Kyle and RG3.
Mhm.
And so we saw that shift, and I started to see little things taking place where they were kind of like managing his passing touchdowns and just watching a lot of things that were going on. You could see the league was like, hold on, we can't let this go all the way to the other side.
Mm.
So all of a sudden they started saying, oh, defenses are catching up with this and that, and trying to kind of keep a lid on just letting that
Mm.
position go completely the other direction. And so 11 years later, now you're starting to see it's kind of nudging in that direction. Now they expect you to be able to have legs and be able to move along with being able to throw the football. It's a requirement now, no longer like out of the ordinary or something used to kind of
Mm.
negate a player. And I see that same thing with, like you said, the offensive coordinator position and the head coach position, where the league is already 70% black. White people don't have an imagination. They will not watch something. We could go to movies, TV. If it's not enough whiteness in it, they'll pull out of it. And so I feel like there's a concerted effort by the league to keep certain prominent positions white so that they can keep the white eyes on the TV and keep the dollars coming in. That's just how white Americans are. I go, but here in this country, that's how it works.
Mm.
Black people consume everything. White people consume things that are white. It's just
Mm.
what it is.
Yeah, nah. I mean, it's really make. Joe Judge did less, and he was given an opportunity. Wasn't he a coordinator for the
He was
Patriots?
special teams. He wasn't even a coordinator. The same thing with John Harbaugh. And so we could go around the league, and like we keep entertaining these ideas of reasons why he doesn't have a job or hasn't gotten a head coaching gig, and we know the answer to that question already. So I think it's a disservice to him to even keep discussing all these other avenues, because it comes down to one thing. It comes down to one thing. If he was white with those accolades, he gets a job.
Th-
Period.
Immediately. That's the point, and that's the part of it where when I listen to the radio or I'm hearing these pundits talk about it, just the fact that they'll just try to say all these other like it's like stop it. Let's just come on, people. You now you insulting our intelligence. You trying to give me all
They don't
these
think you have any.
other
That's why they don't want to give you the job in the first place.
though. Nonetheless, we are here. Eric Bieniemy is now the head coach of the Washington Commanders.
You
They
ahead
got
of
this
yourself.
Bama.
He the head coach of the Commanders.
Oh yeah, I'm ahead of myself.
That's on.
Hey,
You gotta relax.
hey, dog. I done jumped the gun, dog. I done showed all my hand. Like you playing cards, yeah. And the Bama was like, okay, and then it's not even your turn to like raise, and you just all in. Bama's know you got pocket aces now. They're like, fold, I fold. Yeah, I'm out. Like, dog, hold on, young. Like, Bama got something, dog, because he just called so fast, and he wouldn't even let the jump go around the table. Bama itchy. So the thing is, what took it so long? The Bama went through 2 days of 2 days of interviews. What was the thing that was holding this situation?
So I'll get to that point, but I just want to say, without the foolishness and the
Mhm.
racism, he doesn't end up coming here. You don't get him as an offensive coordinator. So
Okay.
Washington benefited from all of the funny business that was going on, because in no other regard does he just up and come and end up being the Commanders'
You saying the
offensive
league made a
coordinator.
call?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if he's treated fairly, he takes a head coaching job somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So all the funny business. Yeah.
They
Okay.
benefit
Okay.
from the funny business.
Okay.
And so you know I can't stand Ron Rivera. I think he's a con artist. I got to give him credit on this one.
Hmm.
One of the reasons that I troll Washington fans and that I didn't believe they were going to make the playoffs this year, and I've never believed they would be good under him, is because there's a huge gap as far as coaching deficiency when it comes to Washington. They have enough talent to win. We saw that through part of the season. Even without a quarterback, they have enough talent to win on both sides of the ball. I
Hmm.
think this closes a huge part of that gap, particularly on offense, and particularly because part of the arrangement is he essentially gets to run the show on offense. This
Hmm.
is his show. You got a defensive head coach, you got a D coordinator. Ron, of course, he's the head coach of the team. He's going to delegate, he's going to make decisions, but
Hmm.
this closes a huge gap. We talked about Scott Turner not really being qualified. It was
Hmm.
nepotism and buddy system that got him
Hmm.
that job. I think we have a qualified adult now as the offensive coordinator who's a top tier offensive coordinator. And so I
Hmm.
think you'll see a big uh, they closed a big gap as far as coaching deficiency,
Hmm.
particularly with
Hmm.
offense.
I agree 100%. Does this So, what do you do with the quarterback position? Because to me, this seems like a situation where, dog, you going from Morton Steakhouse to a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If you talking about Patrick Mahomes compared to Sam Howell, this is night and day. You know what I'm saying?
But keep in
This,
mind, part of the excuses
this
that
is
they use,
Balenciaga and Skechers, dog. Like I just, I,
the excuses they use, they give the credit to Mahomes and Andy Reid. So when you're this talented, and this is not just football, this is in any realm of life, the part that people keep leaving out, and this is why I thought he was going to get the job all along. When
Mhm,
in the group chat, everybody said he ain't coming here. He'd rather go to Baltimore. It's a better job. All this other
mhm,
stuff.
mhm, mhm,
The egos that come along with being that kind of successful or being that good at what you do is next level. And just think about the things that you grade in compared to other people and how you feel about what you can do versus what you tend to see other people do. And when you look at the weapons, like we talked about, they got a ridiculous set of wide receivers. They got two really good running backs. They got a a bunch of other talent on the defensive side of the ball, a top five defense. Like to me, outside of the quarterback position, it was a great job. They should have been a playoff team last year.
Mm-hmm. What happens to this team as far as record is concerned? Is there I mean, what are your expectations? Because I'm trying as excited as I am, I'm having a wet temper my expectations. Just because there's always Aaron, you know how I go, bro. It be some
Don't don't
dysfunction
be a
that
DC
just
person.
creep.
Don't
It
let the
just
DC creep in, dog.
no, it just dysfunction is like it's attached to this joint at the hip, though. It's like watching uh what's that joint? This Is Us or
The Last of Us.
The Last of Us. It's like that, dog. It's like you could get through one episode without the little zombie monster jumps, but you know them jumps is just there, dog. So it's just a matter of time for them jumps spring up from somewhere to, to eat somebody, dog. Like you can't. You're not going to survive. Like it's going to be about the people and stuff like that. But then them zombie monsters is just in the background, just like Walking Dead, dog. You know everybody. It's going to be some killers, some good people, some factions. But then you know them zombies, though they just hit around. So you better keep your head on swivel because they could get you. That's how it is here with the media, with the just the dysfunction, with the foolishness, the funny. It's just there.
But
How do we get away from it?
I'm gonna disagree in this regard. We talk about this offline all the time. The issue in this town with the basketball team and with the football team in unison is horrible coaching. That's the number one reason this team has been asked for the last 20 plus years. It's coaching. It's not talent. It has been at times, but that's not the 20 to 30-year reason that they stayed in
Mhm,
mediocrity to being sorry and being a mockery. It's coaching.
mhm,
The owners here love dinosaurs. They love control. They always end up picking people that most of the time aren't qualified for the job. They're not top minds in the league. When can you
mhm.
name the last time you had a top mind in the league in this city? And people gonna say Joe Gibbs, but that nigga was the guy
Yeah,
30 years ago. You tried to bring
yeah,
him back in the 2000s.
yeah.
So this is the
Yeah,
first
that's
time.
Jordan on the Wizards.
Yeah. And so and then you could say a Kyle Shanahan, but when they had Kyle Shanahan and RG3, they went to the playoffs. And without that injury, a lot of people thought you don't know what damage that team could do. So like when you
Mhm,
have the kind of top guys at coaching, I think this helps a lot for this team. Like they were really
mhm.
close last year already. And you got the two garbage quarterbacks out of there, hopefully. Heineke's going to be gone and won't be gone. So I think you can only be better than you were, barring, major injuries, that kind of, things you can't control. I think you only get better.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. What about the control piece is one thing that I I'm still not in the clear about. Like, I'm sure Ron was trying to get his people to have his people in place, keep some of his people on staff, somebody who could, pass him intel, and you know
Right.
how it goes, bro. And
Somebody who's
and
been in Carolina with him.
you already know, this whole narrative around running the football. I mean, I know Eric Bieniemy spent some time in Minnesota, and he was the running backs coach with them, and had Adrian Peterson, and the run game was good. Um, is that really as important now? Like, is Eric Bieniemy going to come in here and facilitate a philosophy of running the football, like with?
He's going to do whatever he thinks is going to win them games. I That comment that was made was the GM and the head coach trying to shield themselves from the garbage ass ending to the season.
Mhm,
That was
mhm,
not like nobody in their right mind would run the football 2-1 in 2023. Like you wouldn't even want to do that really in the 90s. But to run the football 2-1 is absurd, and it's just ridiculous. And it was just them deflecting from the fact that they got washed down the stretch when they were in the seat to be able to control their own destiny and make the playoffs.
mhm.
They don't want to run the football 2-1. That being said, even if the general manager and the head coach did, he had the enemy has more credentials than both of those guys. He has a better pedigree. He's won. He chips multiple. So whatever he wants to do is the answer, not what Ron wants to do, not what the GM wants to do. He hired now. The ink is on the paper. So it doesn't matter what they say. If I'm him, I'm dog. I'm getting super passive aggressive. This is gonna be my head coaching job in 2024. So he's gonna if there becomes an issue, he every year when things don't go his way, he starts slow, he starts throwing people under the bus. If he tries to create this situation where it looks like he's trying to throw Bieniemy on the bus, I think Bieniemy is going to get the benefit of the doubt throughout the league, and people aren't going to go for it. And I think Ron knows that. So I think he's going to lean on Bieniemy being the expert when it comes to offense and understanding the talent that they have, and regardless of what they end up doing with quarterback, based on what they have, I think that's what the offense is going to look like. You don't get to predetermine when you haven't built a team that way how the offense is going to look. And if that's the case, that's why your team is garbage and you end up in the situations you end up in. You do what the talent says you do, not what some theory or imagination or daydream or nostalgia tells you, oh, this is the way. No. You look at what you have, and that's how you decide what you need to do on offense.
Oh, I know the season just ended. Do they go into the draft and bring a QB to this team that competes with Sam Howell? Is Sam Howell on the chopping block, or will he get the true opportunity to be QB1, like they saying, or do they go into the draft and get a guy? Do they go into free agency and try to sneak and get a guy? Or what do you see happening in this scenario and situation? Because if I'm Bieniemy, I cannot. Dog, I told you, Sam Howell, I cannot put all my eggs in that basket, bro.
So I think it's a two-part question. I don't believe, first of all, let's say you the head coach of the GM. To publicly say Sam's our guy, and if that's really your intention going into the season, you're an idiot. To me, that's to instill confidence in him, to have him approach the offseason not looking over his shoulder, to feel like the QB1, to study that way, to work out that way, to try to see what his leadership skills are in that way, to just address his approach to the 2023 season. I think as an adult and as somebody who's responsible for the entire team, you have to always be looking to get better at every position. That's his own words, is you want to get better at every position, competition at every position. You drafted a guy number one named Dwayne Haskins, and you wouldn't go into the season saying he was your quarterback. So why all of a sudden is your philosophy changed now? I don't believe it has. I believe he's learned that, this is a better approach. We talked about it with Jalen Hurts, even with the Eagles. They didn't necessarily, try to approach it like, hey, this is your team to lose, even if you want to state it that way. But I don't think they're actually approaching it that way. I think if you get a chance to get Lamar, and maybe a couple other people who people aren't looking at, not necessarily Aaron Rodgers or David Carr, because then that puts you, David Carr probably puts you back in a situation like when you got Wentz. But if you have a smart way to be able to, maybe Justin Fields, if there's a way you can get a quarterback that's not going to necessarily mortgage your entire future, and he can compete with Sam or however you want to call it, I think they'd be still looking to do that. And they still draft quarterback in one of the later rounds, like 3 through 7. But I don't think that's really what they're thinking in their minds. They know they have to get better at that position.
Okay. Yeah, we gonna see, man. We a long way from the season, but I I haven't had. When's the last time I was like, I ain't been excited about the team in a long time, dog.
Y'all gonna be even more excited in a few weeks when the ownership change. Y'all really gonna throw a party then.
Dog, we gonna be out in the streets throwing a parade. What you mean, dog? It's gonna be a parade, dog, in the whole city. Yeah, like Bama's won the championship, they get rid of Dan. Yeah. Oh man, follows at OSS 980 at Other Side of Sports. Share the content, subscribe. You know what to do. We out.